So here in this state, the last prevalence study that was done showed about 6% of people had problem gambling disorder. However, those prevalence studies were done long before the Supreme Court ruled that sports betting could be legalized across the country. So what that did was that increased sports betting amongst young men, college-age students. So the NCAA just two or 3 years ago did a study, and they showed about 16% of college-age students between the age of 18 and 22 could be classified as problem gamblers.
Growing up near Philadelphia, we really care about our sports teams there. And so basically every time there was a game on, that's when I would hang out with my friends. And when we turned 18 and we found out about, daily fantasy sports and sports betting, it was a no-brainer we were gonna get started because we were already watching the games. It was all we talked about. It was what we did. Now we had the chance to make money from it. It sounded like it was too good to be true, and it was.
I can remember the first time I gambled, mainly because I went through treatment, and it turns out I was 6 years old. My mother would take me to the bingo hall. A lot of the kids would play in the parking lot and in the lobby, and then when break would happen, we'd all run in to get snacks. Inevitably, the adult we were with would hand us like a little stack of paper, essentially slot machine cards. And I do recall pulling the thing and being like, I got 3 cherries.
So gambling started for me probably around 28. I had been to Vegas a few times, maybe in my early 20s for different parties and things like that. And I'd never gambled when I went to Vegas. Like, it just didn't interest me. And then I found myself divorced at 28, which, was really heartbreaking. And all my friends were getting married, having babies. I felt really just kind of isolated. And they had just opened up a casino about 5 miles from my home. I thought, that might be a fun way to spend some time on a Friday night. And it just felt like a safe place.
I've always had a tendency to look for shortcuts, look for the easy way out. I would get in the car and I'd drive 4.5 hours to state line, and I'd gamble, and actually had a little bit of luck and was able to make some money without having to work for it.
It was a family thing. My mom would go, and she would go do $20 or something like that, and she'd take us with her. She'd do $20 and quit, and I would do whatever she gave me and quit. But after that, it was beginning to be a part where I started going myself, and then when I turned 21, that's when it started for me.
People that are higher risk, there's a genetic factor. So if they got that genetic load where it's in their family of origin, I think that's one of the greatest indicators. Also, if they've been exposed to it earlier in life, maybe their father gambled or their uncles gambled, or they gambled as a family, that nostalgic connection is enough to kind of set them down the path, because it's what they've been shown in terms of how to cope with life and how to enjoy life.
When you try to put a profile together of who is more susceptible, what I noticed over time as a therapist is if you lose someone or something that's very important to you, if you have a sudden health crisis, if you have a job loss, especially if you have a relationship crisis, gambling, if not done in a responsible way, can lead to that addictive pattern of this is the only thing that's gonna make me feel better. I have to do this feeling of compulsion. That is their place, and that's where they can get away and escape.
When I was young, like 18 and 19, I didn't do it all the time. It was here and there. I would do scratch tickets. Then when I moved to Las Vegas, I just thought that's what you do because I didn't have friends, family. I was here for work at the time. And I thought, you just go to the casino. And I just know I wanted to numb out and escape.
So in the beginning of my gambling, it felt really exciting because I finally had a chance to, feel like I was involved in the game. And when I was doing it at first, it was like something to talk about with my friends. We were enjoying the time. It wasn't yet a financial problem. And so it was really, really fun. But very quickly, maybe about 3 or 4 months after we started, I started to notice a divergence. My friends would put their bets in for the 7 o'clock games, but then when that game ended, they would go to sleep at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and I would start betting on the West Coast games. So I was now gambling on things that I didn't even know about really, vaguely adjacently knew about it, but just to keep the thrill going into the night until I ran out of options.
The first time I noticed a problem with that behavior was when we were planning a honeymoon, and we've been married 42 years, so it was obviously a long time ago, and I was planning Hawaii, and he said shortly before we got married, oh, by the way, we don't have any money for Hawaii. I gambled it away. So we went camping. And that was the first time I realized there might be an issue. It was a lovely camping trip.
It was interesting. It's one of those things where I did not plan that.
Wasn't until my mom started experiencing some health issues, and there was one particular night where she was having really bad heartburn, and she'd been having a heart attack for 2 days. When I left the hospital to go get her overnight bag, because she was obviously going to be there for a while, my sister had come up and was with her. I went straight to the casino and I gambled. And that was the first time I won a jackpot. And so with the emotions that I was escaping with my gambling, and I was probably 31 maybe at this time, the emotions I felt tied with the feelings of the jackpot, I think cemented what my journey was going to look like for the next several years.
I think the general public just doesn't understand addiction. So they look at gambling as a choice, because I think their understanding of addiction is that it's something that you're putting in you, like alcohol or a drug. The brain chemistry is the same. When they anticipate taking that drug, that same chemical gets released as the gambler who anticipates making that bet. As human beings, we do behaviors to obtain a reward. Based on whatever the reward is that we're looking for, we will select the behavior. And if that behavior is successful, the next time we want that reward, we'll do the same behavior. And we'll do that behavior over and over and over until it really becomes a habit. And when we anticipate that reward, we turn to that behavior, which will eventually become an addictive behavior when it comes to that reward. It's like if I put 3 coins in and I win 2 coins back, logically, I've lost a coin. But my brain was saying, I won 2 coins. And the coins hitting the tray and ding, 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 that was also an enticement. And I loved hearing that. And that represented a win. It's kind of like Pavlov and the dogs.
One Saturday, I was gambling and I happened to be playing like video poker, and I hit for a lot of money. And then I switched machines and then I hit again. And this was in like a matter of an hour. And it was so hard to not just put the money back in the machine. But at that point, I had a payday loan. And so in my mind, I was just like, okay, this is how people make extra money in Las Vegas. Like the ignorance and naivety that I had was just insane.
From the very beginning, I honestly felt that I would be able to get away with it forever, because the big win was just one more pull away. It was my next trip to the casino. I was going to hit the big win and all my dreams will come true. All my problems will be solved with that one big win that's going to be the very next time I go. And every day I went, it was going to be the next day. The largest jackpot I ever hit, which is not a huge amount of money comparatively, but all of that money went back into the same casino within 48 hours.
I had previously said to myself, I will never, take money out of a business account to gamble. And I crossed that line I had set for myself, and it felt horrible. It literally felt like something was trying to go in through my throat and pull out my intestines. And I physically felt like the stool I was sitting on had arms and that it was holding my legs down. And it was an odd feeling, and it was a scary feeling because I felt just completely out of control. And I was. When you're active in disease and active in addiction, that front logical part of your brain, it doesn't work. It can't work.
So why, when people are under the influence of their addiction, do they do something they wouldn't normally do? That's the question. When people get into an excited state, the fMRI scans show that we use less oxygen in our prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is where culture lives, where mathematics and science and high moral values live. That level of excitation suspends this portion, and then in the scans we'll see higher concentration of oxygen use in the midbrain and reduced capacity or reduced oxygen metabolization in the prefrontal cortex. When we're under the influence of addiction, our midbrain takes over, and our modern intellect is suspended.
It's interesting to think about how gambling addiction can impact the decisions you make and the morals that you have. I like to think that I'm a good person, but good people do bad things when they put themselves in situations where they feel like they're backed against a wall. And there were plenty of times where I was borrowing money under false pretenses, or even creating a business and taking on an investment from friends and family and then turning around and gambling that money. So there were plenty of times where I was bordering what arguably could have been a crime.
My sister, had really been my advocate throughout it all. She didn't realize how bad my gambling was impacting my life. I think she knew I gamble, but I don't think she knew to what extent that I was addicted. None of that, she just believed me when I asked for money. She co-signed on a car for me that I ended up getting repoed. And I lied and lied and lied. And even when that car was repoed, I still lied until she called the bank directly and got the story. And then she was like, just stop. And I think that was one of the first moments that I really, all the other impacts my gambling had really impacted me. And that was the first moment that it had impacted somebody else in a way that was tangible, in a way that I could see it and feel it. After in recovery and having a conversation with my mother, she's like, you could have won an Oscar. You could have won an Oscar for just all the lies and all the ways that you pulled people in and got them to loan you money. And she's like, none of us saw it. She's like, until kind of towards the end where your behavior became concerning. Not in the way of harming us, but we were so scared that you were going to harm yourself.
With gambling, they have had that experience because they just had a big win or an exciting event. And so there goes all of those neurotransmitters and all of the things. Well, then there's the crash and there's the stress and the cortisol and the adrenaline and all of that stuff going through their body. Well, that cycle of all of the chemicals going through your brain is supposed to be in this nice little balanced box. We're supposed to have happy days, in this kind of a range. But when you're going like this with an extreme, and then you're dropping down like that, people are having horrible effects from that big drop of all the effects of their behaviors, including suicidal thoughts and chronic depression and anxiety. And all of it is tied to the extremes of addictive behavior.
It was late at night, and I turned the TV on, and there was a show about food addiction. And I watched this show, and she ordered 6 pizzas, right? And she couldn't wait to eat the food. Her anticipation, excitement. She ate the food. She talked about the euphoria, how good she felt being able to eat the food. And then she talked about the self-loathing and the self-hate after she ate the food. And how do I keep doing this to myself? Why do I keep doing this to myself? I'm killing myself. And that was the first time I connected with this gambling is killing me. It's killing everything about me. And so I decided I was just going to stop. Cold turkey. I could do it. And that lasted about 60 days. And then something triggered me because I wasn't dealing with any of the internal issues. And I went on a week-long binge. Spent everything I had, everything my husband at the time had. And I won the most money I'd ever won in that week. And I played every penny of it back. And at the end of that week, it was around midnight, March 6th, 2021. I went to my car, and I'd already been having some really dark thoughts, and they were starting to really scare me because it felt more real each time. And in that moment, I had felt the darkest I'd ever felt. This is the part I can never get through very well. And it scared me. And I picked up my phone because I knew I'd missed text calls or whatever. And a picture of my mom and my sisters popped up because it was my picture on my phone. And I love them so much, and they had been there for me. And I knew I couldn't do that for them. I couldn't do that to them. And I think it was that reality of like, I don't want to die. I want the addiction to die. And that changed my life.
So, when I was really at the end of my gambling time, it was September 27th of 2005. I will never forget it. I was really I was a mess, you know. I felt shame. I was so upset that I had crossed that line I had set for myself by taking money out of the business account. And I was pregnant with my second child, very pregnant. And just because of like the shame and, you know, the fear, I was suicidal and homicidal. I contemplated just driving off of the I-15, and this was after I had literally taken my hand to scoop my leg to be able to stand up, because I really felt like the stool had arms and it was holding me down, and it just hit me like, girl, you have lost your mind, you're crazy. And why would you kill yourself? Why would you kill your baby? Why would you leave your toddler? Like, just like, what are you doing? And in that moment, I was just like, I'm sick and I need help. And I can't do this on my own.
If you are someone that is impacted by gambling addiction, by gambling disorder, you also impact 6 other people. So there's a ripple effect to every decision that's made, including taking your own life or leaving this world. When gamblers reach a point that we look out at what we have to accomplish to get back to square one, to pay off a year's worth of debt, it can feel like that's the only way out. But what I'd tell anyone that's considering that thought is think about the ripple that you would leave if you left this world, because it is not worth taking that route when you can get better, even if it takes a little bit longer than you might want.
I am a compulsive gambler. I stood on the brinks of death, actually. I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone that I was gambling and the trouble I had gotten into. And I had a business here. I gambled it away. I committed a crime. My wife of 20 years at that time never even knew I gambled. Found it all out in one night. So I've been down the depths of the people I treat. So I have a little more understanding of being hopeless and desperate and going through all the things I went through. I have almost 24 years of recovery. But yeah, I've had people who have gambled most 10, 15, 20 years of their life, now have 10 years of recovery. Their families, they're back with their families, or they've got good jobs. They've really turned their life around.
I am uplifted and satisfied and get lots of reinforcement from knowing that treatment works. Once there is any kind of involvement with support, with professional care, there is a path for it to work, and it's very successful, and a lot of research has backed that up.
Only about 7% of people that have a gambling problem ever seek help for it. That means 93% of people are either struggling in silence, don't know gambling can be an addiction, or are just in denial. planting the seeds is a nice way to look at it, because if you don't look at it that way, you get a lot of pushback.
Now, all these years, nobody ever interceded, and I don't know that they felt it was their job to, but I know they would sit there and see me play thousands of dollars. They knew. They could see it. They knew long before I was ready to look at it or acknowledge it that I was struggling.
Trabajé en la industria de los casinos por casi 7 años. Hay la persona que pasan 3 y hasta 4 días con la misma ropa, no toma una pausa para bañarse, para comer. Eso es una persona que tiene problemas porque no sabe diferenciar la realidad de lo que tiene en su mente. Es el otro lado que no lo pasan en las películas, pero que está ahí y es real. Sometimes, to be honest, I was divided into my job and how this person is feeling. Because yes, we're supposed to suggest, I think you should take a break. That's the only thing that you can do. You cannot take that like to a deeper level because you don't know how they're going to react, the customer, and how the casino is gonna take that.
The one time I had somebody actually kind of intercede, this man paid me out one of my jackpots. And he's somebody I had interacted with, very nice guy. And he looked at me and he said, "No, you're gonna go home with this, right? You're gonna go home with this." It's like, of course. I felt incredulous. Like, what? Of course. This is a lot of money. Nobody gambles this type of money. 8 hours later, when he left, his shift was done, we made eye contact. And he shook his head. And the shame that I felt in that moment, that was the last day that I gambled.
Anyone that could come up to a person that knows that person and say, "Hey, you need to slow down a little bit." And because, I mean, I've heard that before where you have to slow down a little bit. And maybe then getting that seed planted that way would probably point a person to thinking about getting help.
Yo me considero una persona muy empática hacia otros, conecto con las personas y el problema es que hoy en día yo creo que el dinero se pone por encima de esas reglas que protege la persona. Entonces lo que yo les diría es que no dejen de trabajar de persona a persona. It's humans dealing with humans. Just be more human and not let money to control everything.
I mean, I feel like we have to be ready to see it. We have to be ready to acknowledge it before anything can happen. But I think there's work to be done in that space of like, what can you do? Even if it is something that isn't well received, it's still something that's going to make people think. It's going to plant a seed.
So becoming open to getting help, becoming willing, learning, connecting, and there are so many ways now. So if you're on your phone, it's 800-GAMBLER. If you want to talk to somebody that has a ton of resources, the Nevada Council on Problem Gambling.
There's Gamblers Anonymous. That's a free community support group. There's websites. They have Zoom meetings, so there's a meeting 24 hours a day. There's formal treatment centers like mine. I'm the clinical director of the largest treatment center. We're a state-funded program, so there's no cost. So there's a lot of resources here in the state for those people.
There are millions of people who are suffering, don't suffer in silence. There is treatment that works, that helps. I know I wouldn't be doing the things that I do today. I don't even know if I would be alive today had I not gone into recovery, if I'm being really honest. I can't even imagine the relationships I would have with my children, who are young adults now, had I not been in recovery. I feel like it's a gift that I've given myself, but I also have given my family. It absolutely has made a difference.
I think if somebody's watching this and they're struggling, I think it's really about understanding that you're not alone. Seek out people who understand. It's learning about the things that are going to help you and knowing that there is a way forward. Even if it feels impossible right now, there is absolutely a way forward You're worthy of it. And there's healing and hope waiting for you.